Good morning, everyone. I'm Michael. I'm going to be your host for this morning's session. It's a brand new topic, this one, full of interesting options for you to maybe have a go of at some point. Can't do any harm to your data, these ones, so you can have a go. So we're looking at the tools menu, and on there's the options. Going to say options option. That just doesn't sound right. Anyway, there's options, which is jam-packed full of settings in your software. So things, how your ledgers look and things like that can have an impact on that. So we'll have a look at those options you've got, the choices you can make to maybe just tailor your software to make it look how you want and work how you want as well. So session should last around about 45 minutes. Anyway, before we get stuck into those settings, what we'll quickly do, just run you through a little bit of housekeeping, just in case anyone is new to our webinars. So first of all, you don't need a microphone. We don't let you talk during this session. If you do have one, if you enabled it, you will find it's muted. It will be muted throughout as well. So any questions that you do have for us, then you'll need to pop them into the questions panel. To access that, you just click the little speech bubble icon on your toolbar, which should be on the right-hand side of your screen. It'll expand the panel. You'll have access to that box in the bottom corner. So pop in your comment, your question. We've got Matt on hand. Matt thinks of himself as being the new boy. He's been on supporting webinars and running them for quite some time now, or it seems like it. So keep him busy, keep him out of mischief, keep the questions coming. We'll try and answer as many as we can. It'll either be an answer from Matt or maybe an extra little demo from myself as we're running through the session. So do engage with us. Remember to click send as well, otherwise we won't see them. There is a handout to download, which is just a copy of today's slides, but as you'll see in the session today, not much information on there. You will find the detailed information, the step-by-step guide, just as normal. You'll find that in the Help Center should you want it. But really simple, this topic today. As normal, we are recording the session, so if you need a bit of a recap, maybe get interrupted during the session, don't worry, that a link to the recording will be included on your follow-up email, and you'll receive that around about an hour after we finish. That will also include links to our other webinars. So at the moment, we've literally just yesterday, we started our VAT proficiency badge. So a series of webinars where you can earn that digital badge. If you attend, I think it's 5 of the 7 sessions that we run, plus one of the quiz sessions. We'll be running that throughout July as well. So plenty of time to get yourself registered for the sessions if you want to spread them out a little bit, just so you qualify and earn that badge. There'll also be a link to our recordings page, well over 100 topics on there now. So if you're looking for some support in maybe an area you're not familiar with, or maybe you just want to consolidate your knowledge a little bit, do check that out as well. So that's the housekeeping. Let's have a look at what we're going to be covering. Now the agenda, very short today. We're going to start with a little bit of an introduction, and then we'll just get stuck into some demonstrations. So this is going to be more in the style of what we used to term quick learns, where we used to spend probably in the region of about half an hour. So we weren't constantly back and forwards between the slides. It was just get stuck into the demonstration, and then we'll pick up the questions along the way. So we'll run through a series of demonstrations explaining all of the options, and then right at the end, we'll explain more about the additional support. And if there are any outstanding questions, so if Matt's been a bit overwhelmed by them, hasn't been able to answer them, we'll try and pick up as many as we can. If we don't get a chance on the session today, we will just drop you an email later today with an answer to anything that's outstanding. But as I say, do engage with us. Right, so what we're going to be looking at today is within your software, when you go to the tools menu, there is an options option. And in here, you see there's a number of tabs. I'll be running through this live in a moment. And it means you can set your preferences to control how things like how windows display in your software. Now, most settings are computer specific, so you're not battling with your colleagues. So if you like to use a certain color scheme, or you like your columns in a certain width or something along that, and your colleague comes along and thinks, oh, I don't like that color. My favorite team is Liverpool, so I want to use red. So, you know, you're not constantly battling, changing it back and forwards. Essentially each user on the PC can have their own settings. So when we go to tools or options, you'll be able to configure things like your columns, set up your function keys. Some of you may have been on the tax code session yesterday where we looked at configuring your function keys. You can choose the way that you select records within the software. Choose a color scheme. You can actually set ledger colors, something that's been around for probably as long as I can remember. I think that actually goes all the way back to when we were in single digit version number. So been around for a long time. We're up to version 32 at the moment, but there's lots of other options in there as well. But we're going to run through them, explain what they mean. We have included that link at the bottom there as well. So that will take you to the relevant help article if you've downloaded that PDF. But obviously, it's easy enough to find. Just get into the help center, just type in options window, and it should find that for you. Right, so let's just get stuck in to a demonstration. So across to my screen, we'll get started. Now, if you don't have options to the tools menu at the top, it will be because of your access levels. So it may have been switched off for your username. So just be a case of getting that re-enabled if you need it. You might have the tools menu, but you may not have the options on the list there. So again, that will be down to access levels. So just a case of getting it enabled for yourself. So if you go to tools and options, and this is the window that you saw the screenshot of just a moment ago. You've got your tabs along the top here. So we're just going to work through each of them and try and explain, give you an idea of the kind of changes that you can make in your software. So something a little bit different, configuring your software to suit your requirements. So let's start with ledgers. Now, I've done a bit of research on this one, and the very first one, this style, this show tutorial options, this is the one that I don't think exists anymore. I don't think it actually has a use in the current version. Now, I've tried to get this confirmed, but I can't remember when this option disappeared. On the help menu, there used to be a tutorials option, and you had the option whether to display that or not. But this setting now, this first option, will have no bearing on your software. So we can just ignore that one. This one here, hide wizard options. Now, not a great benefit to this one. If we just cancel out for a moment, and I'll be going back and forwards in and out of that area. But if we go to customers, as an example, and on the new edit, or if you've got quite a high resolution, you might find that these options are listed separately. But there is a wizard option. So it launches the wizard, which would guide you through creating, in this case, a new customer record. So let's just cancel out of that. So it's just a case of, do you want that to be displayed or not? Now, even with it being displayed as a separate option, what you could always do is you could right click anywhere on your toolbar. You could say, well, actually, I don't want to see the wizard in this particular screen. It's just cluttering up my toolbar. But you can actually switch them off all in one go. So if tools, options, and hide the wizard options. If I just switch that back on, just okay that. And if we go back to customers, you'll find this time that the wizard option doesn't exist. So it hides it all in one go from the customer's ledger, the supplier's ledger, products and services have that wizard option normally as well. Bank accounts has the wizard option, nominal codes, and also if you are on the professional level, you would have it in the projects area as well. But that's just a way of switching it all off. So sort of declutters your toolbar a little bit. Anyway, let's go back to tools and options. And the third option, quite an interesting one, this one. I don't think this is switched on by default. Show grid lines. Just, I always think this one being switched on, it helps you sort of read the information. So if you like the sort of the look of Excel, for instance, if you show grid lines and okay that, if you go in now into customers, you'll get this sort of this line effect, these grid line effect on your ledgers. So you can switch that on and off. Again, remember your colleagues working on their PCs, they have that choice as well. So you're not battling against each other, as I mentioned. It's your choice on your PC. That's a common one to switch on, just to make it that little bit easier when you're reading information, because you can't change the sort of the font style and size within your software. Obviously, that would obviously pull through, so it show grid lines for all of your various screens. Just makes it that little bit easier to view. Let's go back to tools and options again. So that's the top three. So remember, ignore that top one. Next, we come on to configurable columns. Now, 3 options in here, just in case you'd need to choose one of them. It's the top option, I think that is chosen by default, which allow columns to be hidden and resized. Now, this is something that Abby's going to go into in a bit more detail, but basically what it means is with this option selected, it means if I just OK that and go into the likes of customers, it relates to your columns themselves. So if I right click on my column headings, it will give me a list of the columns that I can show or hide. So if I want to see email address 1, for instance, I want that to be displayed, I can switch that one on and it would show me that column. If there's a column I don't want to see, maybe I don't want to see the inactive column here, just a blank column in my case, I can right click and I can hide it. You can also resize the columns as well, so reset the width if you want to. So all users can do that with that setting that we just looked at. The first option, enabled, allow columns to be hidden and resized. And it should hold that for you as well. So if I just close out of there, go back to customers, it should hold that setting for me. If we go back to tools and then options again, and then we've got this option, the second option in this configurable columns area, use manager account settings for column display. So if you like to dictate the width of columns and which columns can be shown or hidden, you can choose that option if you log in as the manager. Not very common to use this option. Nikki, you mentioned there, if you've got 3 companies in your program, will you have the chance on individual companies? No. This is basically most of these settings that we're looking at today are going to be PC specific. So there's a settings file which is held on your PC, be held in your data directory called SageInnie. It holds a number of different settings, and when you're changing settings in here, it'll update the setting within that file, and that's where it's going to be held. So it will apply that setting. So such as the hide wizard options, for instance, that setting will be updated to that file, and all of your companies will use the same file. And that goes for things like the color schemes and everything that we're about to look at as well. You've also got the option here, use default settings for column display. It just resets it. So if I choose that one and go back to customers, essentially I'm just back to the default list. So I should be able to change things while I'm in here, but as soon as I close out, come back in, it should reset that for me. So not massively use those, but again, the idea of running this session is just so you're aware of the options. So probably the only option that you're likely to change on this one is the show grid lines. Get it switched on, just to make it that bit easier for you to read your information when you're looking at your ledgers. Any additional questions on the settings on that tab before we move on? Again, keep them coming, keep Matt busy. We don't want him twiddling his thumbs today. So keep the questions coming. We'll move on to the toolbar option then, the toolbar tab at the top. Loads of settings on here, but they essentially all do the same thing. Now I'm going to show you what we mean by this sort of these collapsed groups and the default tasks before we change anything on here. So some of you probably have seen these. Others, if you've got a great big monitor, you work on a high resolution, you probably haven't. So if we go into bank accounts as an example, you'll see that all of my options are listed individually. However, if I just shrink that a bit, so we got a little bit smaller, I'll just get rid of the browser in the background. When you've got a smaller monitor and you've got too many options on your toolbar to display, what you may find is that some options group together, such as payments. So we got this sort of icon here, which is split into two. Quite often find it within customers as well. So new edit, it's got this grouped icon, it's split. However, if you've got enough space, it will actually display the options individually. But if we pick on bank accounts, just as an example, and this payments option is split into two. Clicking on the bottom part of the icon there, it will give you the payment options. So what are the options that are being grouped under that payments icon? So we got supplier payment, but supplier payment, which is an option that's available in 50 Accounts Professional. You've got the bank payment option, customer refund, remittances. You wouldn't have that remittances option if you were on Essentials, by the way. So it will group some of these options together. Now the top part of the icon where it's grouped, when I click that, currently it launches the supplier payment screen. So what you can do in that sort of position is you can choose what the sort of the default action is, which screen you want to open when you've got this grouped icon for the top part. That's all it relates to. So let's pick on this one. So tools and options, we'll go back to the toolbar, find the payments option. So in bank account, it's called payments. We highlight it, click edit, and then from the drop down, we can choose what do we want the default action to be. Well, actually, we want to launch the bank payment window instead by clicking the top part of the icon. So we just OK that, OK that. And now when we go to bank accounts, again, still split the same way, drop down, still the same. But when we click the top part of the icon, you'll see it now launches that bank payments window. So if you're in that position and you think, well, more commonly I enter bank payments than supplier payments, and you've got this sort of grouped icon, then that's how you change it. What you might do instead when you're in this position is you might start hiding options that you just don't use. So if you don't print checks, for instance, you could always right click, find checks on the list and hide it. It disappears. The less options you have, the more likely you are not to have these grouped options. So let's just maximize that. You'll see when I maximize it, I haven't got any of them grouped. There's enough space on that toolbar on my screen to display those. So I'm back to having supplier payment and bank payment, etc., listed separately. Right, let's go back to tools and options. So just going back to that toolbar, you can see there's quite a few in there. Probably the common ones, sales orders and the bank accounts area. That's where you're most likely to have those grouped icons. But again, nice simple option, that one, should you want it. Next, we'll go on to the environment tab. Now again, if you did attend yesterday, the tax code session, you might be familiar with configuring F11 and F12. So what we can do here is, and all of your function keys in Sage 50 Accounts do have a use. Now for F11, by default, when you press F11 in your software, it will open the Windows control panel. So you can access your settings if needed. Not as common to have to access it these days. And F12 will actually launch the report designer. Again, these days, a bit less likely that you're going to want to go into the report designer direct to start something from scratch. much easier if you need to edit a report or a layout, that you're going to go into that area and then find the one that you want and then click edit, take you into Report Center. So you can actually configure these for a different use if you have them. So is there anything you like to sort of access? Now, yesterday we configured F12. Now, if I go to our Help Center, and if I just type F12 as an example, and the first one is open a web page from within Sage 50 accounts. So this article here will contain some of the more common codes so that it will, excuse me, some of the more common codes that you can paste in to the F11 or F12 just to help you get at certain information. So for instance, you might access a certain web page quite often. So the one we mentioned yesterday was this bit of code here. So if we highlight that, you must highlight all of it as well, all the way from the CMD and then the space/C, etc. If we just copy that, so we use this bit of code essentially at the beginning, plus the web link to essentially open this UK tax code guide. So we'll just make sure, did I copy that? I did. So I'll go back to Sage and I'm going to remove what's there at the moment, just so I've got a blank box, and then I'm going to paste that in. So it's got that link. And if I OK that, I'm just back to Sage, and if I press F12 now on my keyboard, and what it does, I'll just open on my other screen, so I'll drag it across. It opens that, whatever the link was that I've pasted in there, it opens that so I can easily get at that information. So whether that's a Sage Help article, such as the tax code finder, or maybe HMRC's website or something else, get it entered. Means you can easily get at it either using F11 or F12. Good little tip, that one. I think a lot of people like that one. There's always that help article on our Sage Help Center that you access all the time. It's just so you've got it to hand. You don't need to go searching for it. Get it configured. Then you can just press F11 or F12. Right, let's go back to Tools and Options. Back to the Environment tab. Now the other one is this one here, configure F12 as the hide key. Now many years ago, this is what you often used to be referred to as the boss key. And the reason for that is, I think it was when you were playing games on your PC, people referred to it as the boss key. You could just press a key quickly and it minimized everything. So if your boss walked in, so we call it the hide key, just to keep it a bit more professional. But if you work in a busy office environment, bear in mind you work in accounts, you've probably got sensitive information on there. You might have workers coming into your office, you don't want them to see anything. So you can tick this box. And when you press F12 when you're working in your software, rather than opening this sort of shortcut that you've got set, we just click OK to that one, what it will do is it just minimizes Sage. It doesn't close it. I've still got it there. I can put it back up, open it back up. But when you're working, so you could be working on a list of customers, someone comes in, you don't want them to see what's on the screen, just F12, it minimizes it. Obviously locks it at the same time. So it would mean that if you've put a link in F12, that's then it's going to override that. So it'll just minimize it and lock your PC or lock Sage instead. So let's go back to Tools and Options. So we're on the Environment tab. I'm going to take that tick out of that one. So those are the options at the top. Now F11 used to have a restricted number of characters, so you couldn't paste things like web links in there. But I think since 28.2, you've got the same number of characters as you have for F12. So if you want to use your own link, your own sort of web page that you want to link to, you must remember to pop this little bit of code at the start, and then you can just put whatever web link you want. So if you're wanting to put the webinar page in there, thinking, oh, that's the hotline, that one, I'll get myself booked on, see what webinars are taking place today, I'll press F12, up it pops. Just a case of popping the right code in there. So this little bit of code at the beginning, followed by the web page link. Right, next we're on to list selection style. Now we've got two options in here. And a lot of people don't realize this exists. Now, if you're a bit old school like me and you've used Sage for, let's say, a few years, or quite a few years, then you would be familiar with the Sage selection style. But the Windows selection style is the default. And we'll just leave it set to that. And what do we mean by that? Well, if we pop into customers, and I'm going to highlight a customer, just click on it. Now, if I come down and I click on this County Golf Supplies, and I click on it, you'll see the highlight follows me around. So I just randomly click there, you'll see sort of the highlight following me around that list. If I want to select and highlight multiple records, I've got a couple of ways of doing that. Now, if I want to highlight a range, I can highlight the first one, then hold down the Shift key. Let's say we want to go all the way down to John Smith Studios and highlight everything in between. So we'll hold down the Shift keys, click on John Smith Studios, and you've then got that range highlighted. It's clear. The other thing you can do is highlight an account and then hold down your Control key. And it means when I do that, I can just click to highlight. I could click again to take a highlight off if I wanted, but I've got to have that Control key held down while I do that. If I release the Control key and I think, right, I want to include Fred Bryant, because I haven't got any keys held down, when I click on Fred Bryant, the highlight follows me around. So Shift will help you select a range, Control would, holding that down, it essentially lets you select an individual record or individual records. Now that's what we term the Windows selection style. We go back to Tools and Options. We go back to Environment, and this time I'm going to choose the second option there, the Sage selection style. Remember, this is PC specific as well, so you can choose how you like to highlight records. Your colleague can choose their preferred method. So we'll choose this one. I'll click OK to that one. And if we pop into customers again, at this time if I highlight ABS records just by clicking on them. If I now go down to John Smith Studios and let's say I just click without holding any keys down at all, the highlight doesn't necessarily follow me around, it just highlights the record that I've clicked on. So if I click onto County Golf Supplies, highlights it. So it's more like the Sage selection style is more of an on-off switch. So I want to get rid of John Smith Studios, I just click on it. I don't need to hold any keys down. I just click on it, it removes the highlight. So if you've ever been in, let's say, bank accounts and reconcile, and this is quite a common one, when people are trying to select multiple transactions when you're in here, and you think, well, actually, I can only do one at a time. That's not the case. You can either hold down your Control key if you've got the Windows selection style set up, or if you've got the Sage selection style set up, you can then just go down and highlight whatever you want. So again, it's that on-off highlight style that you've got. But that's quite a common one, a common place where people think, well, can I only do one transaction at a time within the bank reconciliation window? Let's close out of that. Again, any questions, keep them coming. Right, let's go back into Tools and Options. So that's the settings on the Environment tab. Next, we're going to go into Startup. Now, not much on the Startup tab. Now, you'll see it's grayed out in my case. The only option you have is show the company list on Startup. So when you're going into Sage, if I just close out for a moment. So when I'm opening Sage 50 accounts, what you're normally going to get is you're going to get your company list. Now, if you've got multiple companies, it's always going to do that. If you're a single company license, though, you have that choice within tools and options. It would let you disable the option, so you don't have to have this screen presented to you. If you're a single company license, so you've only got the one Sage company, then all that you would be presented with on the company selection is demonstration data, practice data, and your company. If you've got multiple companies, you're always, obviously the others are going to be listed as well. But if you've only got the one company, rather than you say, right, that's the one I'm after, click open company, what you can now do is you can go into tools. Let's just get back to it. So back into tools. Let's get rid of that as well. Oh, go and click crazy now. So back into tools, into options, and on startup, if we didn't want that company list to appear and we just want it to take us straight into our one and only Sage company, then we can take the tick out of that. You also have that little checkbox on that company selection wizard. Again, that would only be available to you if you're on single company only. So I could take the tick out, and it means when I come into Sage, it'll just automatically ask me to log in. Right, next tab, colors. Something you can have a little bit of fun with this one. And something that might catch you out as well. Now, I'll try and point that out as we go through the options. Now, the first thing is the color theme. You've got three themes to choose from: dark, light, and white. Now, light and white are very, very similar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose dark. So choose dark, click OK. It tells me it will only be applied once the application is restarted. So we'll just OK that. Again, close out of Sage. And then when we open it back up, we'll log into that company again. Twiddle our thumbs a little bit because my Sage is running a little bit slow today. And you can see we've now got the what we term the dark color theme pulling through now. So more of a grey color, I suppose. But again, you've got that choice. It's only going to impact your PC. Doesn't impact anyone else. It's a local setting to your PC. So again, there's not that conflict with your colleagues thinking, well, I like white and I like dark. It's up to you. So we'll just leave it set to that for the time being. Now that would apply to all of my companies as well. So back to tools, options. Just quickly pick up on Louise's question there. Louise, you were just asking there, if you choose the Sage selection style, so just going back to that environment tab, so this one, you can do a random selection. So it's that on off. So you can click anywhere on your list without having to hold down your shift or control key to be able to enable you to select additional records. But it's a bit of personal preference, that one as well. But again, if you use Sage for a long time, you probably prefer that Sage selection style. It's what you're used to. I prefer it. I sometimes catch myself out with the Windows selection style because we chop and change all the time with the various demos that we run. But have a go of it. You can always switch back. If you're on the Windows one though, the important keys to remember: Shift lets you select that range, Control holding that down. It means you can add additional records to your selection. Right, back to colors. Right, so that's the color theme. Have a bit play with that one. Again, you can always change it, but light is the default. I'll just leave it set to dark. Next, we come on to this alternate row color. So your various ledgers in your software. Now, if we just cancel out for a moment, go into customers, you'll see by default, if you've never used this, you'll have this sort of very fine sort of gray alternate color on there in the background, which works really well if you've got the grid lines enabled as well. But if you want something a bit more personal, let's call it, or maybe something a bit more vibrant, we'll see. Maybe you want to use your favorite football team's colors or your rugby team's colors or whatever. Then you can change the alternate color that Sage uses. Now this is where you can get caught out a little bit as well. So if we go back to Tools, Options and Colors, we'll just pick on Customers. Now you've got your basic colors at the top here. So let's say I'm going to choose red. Big divide in the northeast, red and white or black and white, but we'll go red just at this point. So we'll click OK, and it shows me what the alternate color is going to be. And I can set that to whatever I want for each of the ledgers. Now red's a bit garish, this one. That if you've got a really vibrant color, such as or dark colors, you probably find it's not as useful. But if we go into there and go into customers, you'll see the effect that I have. Oh, so you nearly need sunglasses to look at that one. So paler colors do work best, and again, it's down to personal preference. So we'll go back to Tools, Options. We'll try and tone it down a little bit. So as I say, paler colors a little bit better. Up to you. You can also define your custom colors as well. So let's choose a sage color. So you can even go as far as just selecting something off the list here if you wanted to. If you know the sort of, maybe you've got a company brand color. So we'll do RGB color if you really want to make it like that. So we'll choose what we term the sage green. So this one here. I'll just add that to my custom colors. I'll select it, click OK. Still quite garish. And it will look like that one when I go into customers. Oof. Again, still need sunglasses for that one. So maybe the sage green, the numbers we just typed in there, isn't the best for that one. But you can play around with that one to your heart's content. And again, different ledgers can use different colors. Now, if I want to switch it off, I can just tick the little box there. I'll leave the settings in there if you want, and it would just go back to the way it was. If I just put it back to a paler color though, so let's choose a paler green this time and OK that. Let's see what that one looks like. Oh, I think I left that tick in the box, didn't I? So let's go back. Take the tick out of there. Back into customers. Still quite bright, so up to you. Have a play around with that one. You can always go in and tick the box to switch it back off or reset it if required. So not as bright as it was. The one little thing to watch out for, and I'm going to quickly point this out just in case anyone does stumble across it. If you go to Tools and Options, back to Colors, and if we just pick on Suppliers, you'll notice on here, if you do nothing else, black is highlighted. It defaults to black. So if I do nothing and I just click OK, you'll see I get that effect. If I click OK, pop into Suppliers, and not the best effect, but lovely black and white stripes, that one. So in honor of the Geordies. But not the best when you're working in Sage. It's still essentially a black font on a black background, so you cannot really see anything until you highlight it to change the highlight color. So I take the highlight off, not the best, but that's something to watch out for, just in case you go in and you think, well, I'll just click OK while I'm in here. So change it to something else. So again, have a little play with that one. And then the final option I'm just going to click on is the view option. Now view, it lets you set your what you term your initial view. So you'll notice mine is set to home. Yours will probably be set to that as well, unless you've played around with this setting in the past. So do you always work in a certain ledger? So there's loads of different ones you can choose. So do you mainly work in customers or invoices and credits? If I choose invoices and credits, set that as my initial view, just OK that. Now it's not a massive time saver, this one, but it just means, oh, we'll just OK that. We'll come back in. Choose my company. Pop in my password. And then as it opens, it's straight into the invoices and credits ledger. So again, not the end of the world, that one, not a massive time saver. I think by default, it'll just always default to the home page. So where you get these panels. Mentions a little bit about the VAT proficiency badge we're running at the moment as well for the webinars. So if you haven't yet registered, get yourself registered for them. So tools options, view tab, choose what you want it to be. What do you want it to open by default? So your first task in the morning, is it always to go into bank feeds and sort of essentially download your latest bank transactions? Or do you work in some other area? Just going to set mine back to the home option there and OK that. Okay, brings us to the end of the demonstration. So hopefully that's given you a little bit of food for thought, giving you an option, something to have a little play around with. Again, you can't do any harm by changing those settings. You can always go back in and reset them if you need to, but don't get caught out by having the black and white stripes like I demonstrated on your ledgers. Right, any additional questions? If you want to quickly pop them in there, we'll pick them up as quick as we can. I think Matt's on top of the questions that you've submitted so far. But any questions, if you weren't quite with us at the beginning, to submit one, all you need to do, click the little speech bubble icon. You'll then have access to that box in the bottom corner. Any thoughts, comments, questions, pop them in there, click send. If anyone wants a copy of the slides, again, not a lot of information on the slides, because it's really just demonstration today, then you can download that handout. The detailed information about what we've looked at today, you will find that in the Help Centre. Quick promotion for the Help Centre as well, just to remind you, loads of great information in there. You can access it from your software at any point just by pressing F1. It's context sensitive as well, so it'll bring up the help relating to whatever it is you're working on. But otherwise, just open your browser, sage.co.uk/help, and then you'll be able to choose your software, Sage 50 accounts, and then start searching that Help Centre for some support. In addition, we've got loads of webinars lined up at the moment for Copilot, something you may have heard about. If you want to find out what it's all about, how you can use it, the Copilot Insights, helping you to manage debt, manage stock, monitor your business performance, that type of thing. But also in version 32, we've now got Report with Copilot, and we've got extra management report analysis built into that one. Version 32 is available to download and install. If you're on that one yet, just into our Help Centre, search for version 32. But if you want to find out about Copilot, please get yourself registered for one of our sessions. As I mentioned, at the moment, we're running through our VAT proficiency badge for this month. We're going to be running that in June and also repeating the sessions in July. So plenty of scope for you to attend those, just to help and boost your knowledge a little bit on the VAT side of Sage 50 accounts. Again, on the follow-up email, it will include a link to our registration page. So do get yourself registered. And then finally, before I turn to any questions, just in case anyone has any, just bring that slide back up there. Just let me thank you for coming along. I hope you've enjoyed it. Something new today. Not very intense, this one. So as I say, have a little play around with that, see how you get on. You can always undo it if you need to. If you've got any feedback for us, any thoughts, ideas, topics that you'd like to see us cover going forward, then do take that minute to complete the survey that pops up as you leave today's session. And the follow-up email containing a link to today's recording, a link to our registration page, and a link to our other recordings that will be included on the follow-up email, and you'll receive that in round about an hour's time. Right, I don't actually have any outstanding questions at this point, so Matt's just about on top of them. So in the absence of any questions, we'll end the webinar just at that point. We're just about on time today as well, so a bit of a bonus. Right, we'll end the webinar just at that point. If you do get a chance, do take that minute to complete the survey. Always appreciated. We love reading those comments, just to see if we've hit the mark or not, and share your thoughts on what you'd like to see next. We'll see if we can cater for that going forward. So many thanks. Hopefully we'll see you on some other sessions soon. Take care.